Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tall Tales TV channel, and today we're going to be discussing if this little guy right here is the most overrated bullet of all time. Yes, the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Did you just say overrated and 6.5 Creedmoor in the same sentence?
Well, I mean,
it's the best bullet ever made.
Don't think like it's as good as ever.
You're not gonna disrespect it like that. I'm not gonna listen to it.
All right.
It's so good.
Get back in the closet. Weird me out.
Don't mess this up.
So instead of me sitting here and just saying, "Oh, I think the 6.5 is the most overrated bullet that has come out in my lifetime," I'm actually going to use this cool little thing called facts and science to back me up. So, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at ballistic charts and a recoil chart in order to back up my claim that I think the 6.5 is highly overhyped, which I have one I like to coyote hunt with, and we'll get into that later. But that is what is setting up right here behind me is a Savage Axis and 6.5 Creedmoor. If you all saw the budget rifle shoot-off, that is the rifle that was used. So, I'm going to be screen recording so you all can see I'm not just making up these numbers. I'm going to have it side by side on this video so I can be as accurate as possible, as transparent with you all. So we're going to start off, we're going to look at the recoil of the 6.5. The way I have this set up is I went with the heaviest 6.5 Creedmoor bullet. I tried to go with Barnes for all these as well, so the BCs would be similar. I couldn't in all circumstances, so what I did was went with the closest grain bullet available. I know the BCs will mess it up, that will affect energy, that will also affect drop. But I'm trying to be fair. So we went with Barnes as much as possible, and we're going to have two older cartridges that surpass the 6.5, and we're going to have two newer cartridges that do. The whole point of this video is that there are better options, and a lot of people act like there isn't. So, first thing we're going to do, a lot of people say 6.5, I love it because of the lack of recoil. Okay, let's look at it. 6.5 Creedmoor, on average, this is from Backfire TV. So they released this. Anything over 30 foot-pounds is massive recoil. Anything over 25 in a lightweight rifle, shooters can struggle to shoot more than 15 rounds. Over 15 foot-pounds begins to be very difficult to spot the bullet on impact. Over 10 foot-pounds, even new shooters can easily spot impacts. And under 4 foot-pounds feels more like a vibration or a push. So, if we go down here to the 6.5 Creedmoor, you're looking at 10.89 foot-pounds. That is practically nothing. I mean, that is insane, especially when you compare, which this surprised me, that a 30-30 only has 9.97. I thought that a 30-30 would kick more than a Creedmoor. But this is an all-encompassing, different bullet weights, different loadings for each bullet. Now, one I can really compare that to is the 7.62 by 30. 7.62 by 39s is 7.11 pounds, and the Creedmoor is only topping that by 4 and some change. So, not a real big difference. The 22-250 comes in at 7.73, but we're not comparing the 22-250. And if you're looking at the top of the screen, you can already see what rounds I'm going to base this off of. So, the 6.5 Creedmoor, we're looking at 11.87 foot-pounds. Now, let's look at a ballistics table. I decided to go with the Barnes 140 grain JHP BT ballistics tip. So, if we look at muzzle, we have 2,700 foot-pounds with 2,267 foot-pounds energy. That's awesome. Now, when we get down towards the bottom, we are looking at 500 yards, we have 1,964 feet per second with 1,199 foot-pounds of energy at target and almost 46 inches of drop. My big thing is people talk about the capability of elk and big game hunting with the 6.5. Rule of thumb for an elk is 1,500 foot-pounds. So if we're going to go shoot an elk, you can either have this gun be a long-range deer gun, in my mind, or you can have it be an elk gun. If you're going to have it be an elk gun, as you can see, once you get out to 400 yards, you're no longer carrying enough foot-pounds for what is considered ethical to take down an elk. You are still carrying plenty at 500 yards to take down a whitetail, which is only around 1,000 foot-pounds is what's recommended. So, that's the big numbers we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at 500 yards. What is it doing? Can I take a whitetail? Because I'm mainly a whitetail hunter, so that's going to be my comparison. So the first bullet we're going to be comparing it to will be the 270, because I remember when this caliber came out, really blew up, I was either in high school or fresh out of high school when it really gained traction, and everyone was like, oh man, the 270 is just going to kill it off. There's no comparison. It beats 270. So let's go in here and let's look at the 270 ballistics. We're doing it side by side. So there was a 140 grain Browning long range out of a 270. So let's look. We're going 2970 at the muzzle compared to 2700. So the 270 is going faster. Different bullet, different BC, different loading. I understand that, but I'm going off of a grain of bullet because that is the closest I can get. Energy at the muzzle for the 270 is going to be 2743, and it is going to be 2267. So there is a big difference in energy already at muzzle, which doesn't matter. You're not pressing your gun up against a deer and pulling the trigger. So let's say I want to go out to 500 yards. At 500, I'm going 2125 out of the 270. I'm going 1964 out of the 6.5. I have 1404 foot-pounds of energy out of the 270. Okay, with the 6.5, 1199. So I'm getting a little over 200, I think about 205 foot-pounds of energy more out of the 270 with a 38.14 inch drop and a 45.9. So with the same grain bullet, I am dropping 7 inches more with the 6.5. But everyone says the 6.5 is one of the flattest shooting rounds to come out recently. But if we look, there's a 140 grain 270 that provides faster velocity, more foot-pounds of energy on target, and less drop. Now this is best case scenario, but they're both 140 grain bullets. That's what I'm trying to get. So the 270 takes the win. Let's go on to the next one that I wanted to compare, which was 308. Let's find 308 on the recoil. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, 6.5 is going to kick less than all of these bullets, but in my mind, none of these other bullets are kicking enough to where a new shooter can't pick it up, besides maybe the last new bullet we're going to talk about. So we're looking at 308, 18.27. We're under 20. Not bad at all. Your kick felt difference is 11.87 to 18.27, so less than 7 foot-pounds. Not a big difference at all. So if we go into the 308, this is a Barnes Vortex 150 grain, a heavier bullet. I tried to do that. If they didn't have a 140 grain bullet, I would go heavier, because that even gives a 6.5 an advantage. Heavier bullet should be slower, but I'm trying to give it the drop. That is what everyone will argue. It is flatter shooting. So if I get a heavier bullet, I should drop less. or else what is the use of a 6.5, which we will discuss at the end of this video. So we have a Barnes Vortex 150 grain TTSX, my favorite bullet out on the market. So we got 2900 at the barrel, 2802 foot-pounds, 2700 and 2267. So we already have a big advantage here. Now at 500, we got 1936 feet per second, 1964. So it is slightly slower than the 6.5 at 500 yards. 1249 foot-pounds, 1199. Now it is a slightly heavier bullet, so it should carry a little more energy. So I expect that tiny bit of energy uphold, but it drops 42.9 inches, while the Creedmoor drops 45.9. So a 3-inch difference doesn't really matter to me. But 6.5 is supposed to be the end-all, beat-all for long range. And I'm not trying to be the hater. I like 6.5. I think it has its place, but I think it is so overrated and it upsets me. Just because I have nothing better to think about. The next bullet we are going to be comparing, let's go to our recoil list, is going to be the 6.5 PRC. This is our first of the two newer calibers I am comparing. So, we got the 6.5 PRC is 1627. Kicks less than the 270 or the 308, and only less than 5 foot-pounds more than the 6.5 Creedmoor. So let's look at it. This is a newer cartridge, has came out after the 6.5 Creedmoor as far as I'm aware. I don't remember it being a big deal until within the past like 2-3 years. Or maybe that's just when it blew up and came to prominence. So we have Barnes Precision 145 grain. That was the closest grainage I could find. It's still heavier. At the muzzle, we've got 2910 compared to 2700, so we're going faster at the muzzle. 2727 versus 2767. So we actually have, oh no, I read that wrong. We got about 500 foot-pounds more at the muzzle. Let's go down to 500. We got 2281 feet per second compared to 1964. So we've got over 300 feet per second more. We've got 1,676 foot-pounds compared to 1199. So we're just about 500 foot-pounds of energy more, well within the range of killing an elk at 500 yards. And our drop is 36.4 inches compared to 45.9. Now, almost 9 inches of drop, that's a big deal at 500 yards. That blows 6.5 out of the water. 9 inches better, that's not even a contest. And like I said, it's a heavier bullet. It should be going slower. BC does come into factor, but like I said, I am just going off of the best numbers I could find to try to be as close as possible with the two. So, next thing we've got is the other new cartridge that I've been hearing a lot about, and after doing research for this video, I'm really interested in and want to look into it more. The 6.8 Western. It has 23.6 foot-pounds, which is pretty comparable to a 30-06, a little more kick, but I know a lot of hunters, one of their first rifles was a 30-06, and I like that we've gotten to a spot where we have lower recoil rifles where kids can get into it sooner. I love that. But I don't think recoil should be your #1 factor in picking out a deer gun for your child. So, 6.8 Western, we got 23.6. We'll come over here and we'll do our comparison. So at the muzzle, we're looking at 3125 feet per second compared to the 2700. Y'all are going to get tired of hearing that. We've got 3253 foot-pounds of energy compared to 2267. Not even close. It's almost 1,000 foot-pounds more. And this is 150 grain. Should be slower. Unless, of course, BC is better. But we're not worried about that. We are worried about bullet weight. At 500 yards, we have 2225 feet per second compared to 1964. You're looking at about a little under 300 feet per second difference, with 1650 foot-pounds compared to 1199. So quite a bit more energy being delivered to target to the animal. So we are still within the range on this as well to take out an elk at 500 yards, whereas the 6.5 was already, basically, I would say probably around the 350 yard mark. It's done. You shouldn't be trying to take an elk. But we have a 45.9 inch drop compared to a 34.5, which is a difference of 15.4. 34, or no, forgive me, 11.5, or 11.4, 11.4. So almost a foot difference in drop. In my mind, the 6.5 will always be the most overrated round to come out. I think where the 6.5 shines and what category it needs to be put in is for young shooters, due to that extremely low recoil, maybe smaller stature, women, shorter people, people with disabilities. It would be a great round. It doesn't kick. And varmint, I think the 6.5 is an amazing varmint round. With its speeds, with its drop is decent. It's pretty flat shooting, but as you've seen, there's ones that do it better. But I think that is where the 6.5 should be put into a category, is new hunters for whitetail within, because I think most whitetail hunters too, if we come here to the 6.5 again, most whitetail hunters are going to run this 127, and out to 500 yards, you can still kill a deer. That's what this bullet is. But I have seen family members shoot deer with this. I have watched it break the front shoulder of the deer through binoculars, and it looked like a good shot, and the deer got away. So I don't know. I don't think that you can fully trust the energy. I think more so, honestly, just from seeing that number, you need more along the lines of 1150 to 1200 for deer. But I'm going off the numbers they say. So even with a 127, you should be able to kill a deer. Now with the 127, you're not shooting an elk past 200 yards, and that is kind of a deal. A lot of guys like to say, "Oh, this is the cartridge I'll always take for elk from now on." I don't see it. I really, really don't. But I am going off one type of bullet. One type. So, it gets beat even by the 270. Because that was the gun I heard. It was a 270 Magnum, basically, was what I was told. I don't see it. And if I'm just ill-informed and you all don't think that these charts are right or whatever, let me know down in the comments. But in my mind, I don't get the hype. Unless, if they came out and marketed this as a varmint rifle, oh my god. It blows it out of the water. It's crazy. I love it for that. I've got a coyote light on it right now. But when it comes to deer, I think it does okay. To me, it doesn't perform as good as, the 308 or the 270 or the 6.5 PRC. I haven't seen the 6.8 Western really used too much, so I'm not going to speak on that. But going off the tables, it does better than 6.8 Western. And then elk. Unless you got a kid going elk hunting and you're going to get within that 300-yard range, I don't see it. You know, I've heard guys, I saw a short the other day where the guy said, you know, I get told all the time that, oh man, I shot an elk at 800 yards with my 6.5 Creedmoor and I dropped him. And his response was, do it 9 more times and tell me how it turns out. Because you can't base this off of one experience. If you have shot 5 or 6 elk with the 6.5 Creedmoor and had great success, let me know down in the comments. But I don't see it. The numbers aren't showing me that you will have that kind of success. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not looking at 1,000 yards. I'm looking 500 and in. I mean, the reason I picked these 4 other calibers is because they are comparable and they do better than what the Creedmoor is doing. You know, they're all more successful looking at it ballistically. Because even with the 270, I still have probably at the 450 yards, I can probably ethically kill an elk going off that foot poundage. The 308, I can right probably 350. The 6.5 PRC, who knows? It's over 500 yards. The 6.8 Western, over 500 yards. I can take down an elk. With one of the heaviest grain bullets, I got 300 yards. Maybe 320 before I lose the foot pounds that the rule of thumb is I need to kill said elk. So, but like I said, if you're looking for a bullet for a new shooter, you don't want them to be afraid of recoil, a smaller stature, kid, wife, niece, nephew, whatever. If you're a smaller statured man, cool, whatever. If you're looking for a good varmint rifle, absolutely. Or if you're looking for just a low recoil rifle that you want to be able to shoot further than you could with, let's say, a 300 Blackout or a 350 Legend or something like that, you want to shoot 500 yards and in for whitetail, I think the 6.5 Creedmoor is a great choice. But all these people that say it's the end all be all, I don't understand. And if you're one of those people, please comment down below and I will happily, respectfully talk about anything and hear you out, because I want to hear what in your mind makes it so good. Is it experience? Is it articles you read? Is it people you watched? Is it what is it? Because whenever I look at these numbers, I don't see it. And I'm once again not saying the 6.5 is a bad cartridge. It's just overrated. It's not as good as everyone says it is. Go ahead and leave your comments down below whether you agree, disagree, think I'm wrong, think I'm an idiot. Go ahead and tell me. And I think that's going to be about it for this video. So we'll see you on the next one.